The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Let's go, Vol Twitter and Tennessee fans. Let me hear from you on the message board because you are a national champion. The Vols win the College World Series by beating Texas A&M, and suddenly Tennessee has their first championship since back in 1998 on the men's side. And, of course, they won a football championship in 1998. We've got a big show on tap today. The MVP of the College World Series, I think, is kind of easy. We'll have that discussion. Also, how much is the College World Series a curse breaker? Peyton was there. Tennessee's not supposed to be any good with Peyton in attendance. What? Comparing the 2024 baseball balls to the 1998 football balls, a column that I wrote on offthehooksports.com. Also, what the national title says about the Vols athletic program moving forward, because I think Tennessee's athletic department has more championships in them. Which major UT sport will be the next to win a national title? And Lane Kiffin in a Twitter war with Antonio Brown that we didn't have time to get to yesterday. Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dave?
Never better. Let's get your initial take on what I would like to do is get your initial take on Tennessee's 2024 national championship in baseball. Now, here is Dave Hooker, 26 years later. I can tell you the day after the 1998 national championship in football, I drove to do a second day show, much like this one, Caleb, and my car ran out of gas with my co-host in Phoenix, Arizona. Fortunately, we got over the hill, coasted downhill, got gas in the car, and did a fantastic show. That's what we'll do today. I'm assuming you didn't have any car troubles this AM?
I did not, but my studio is in my basement, so I don't have to drive to it.
There you go. It is time for today's tough question, and that has to do with what? The MVP of your national champion Diamond Balls. Hit like and subscribe button if you're happy to be a national champion.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, today's tough question brought to you by our good friends at Neubert Collision Center. Very simply put, this is the easy way out. Who is the MVP of the College World Series? Let me get your thoughts, then we'll turn that into a poll question. I think it's kind of easy, but can we begin with the candidates? Because we know who is named most outstanding, but we'll give you our thoughts. Well, who are the candidates? Caleb, as you look back over this College World Series finals, or do you want to talk about the whole College World Series? I'll leave that up to you.
I think it really just comes down to two players, quite honestly. And one of them I'm going to mention as much as people, as he made a huge error running the bases yesterday, and he grounded into a double play on Saturday. But one of them is Cal Stark, because Tennessee's pitching success does not happen without Cal Stark's catching, and he had a key home run on Saturday. But
Fair.
I'm just creating fake suspense on that. There's a very obvious MVP, and it's Dylan Dreing. There's not even a close. This is
okay. Now let me ask you this though. Let me stop you for just 1 second, because I want to make sure I know the question exactly right. Because if it's the College World Series finals, I've got no argument, right? And we can manufacture an argument if you want to, but I don't really want to do that. It has to be Dylan Dreing. But what if we talk about the entire College World Series for Tennessee? Let's not forget that demo game, the cycle plus a double, if I remember correctly, that allowed the Vols to advance and not get bumped early or into the losers bracket at the very least. I'm not sure that one performance isn't enough to make Demo
SEMO. You mean SEMO.
Christian Moore. I'm not sure that's not enough to make him the MVP of the entire College World Series.
No.
Still Dreing.
As valuable as that was, and that was valuable, and I don't want to dismiss it. Dylan Dreing drove in a run in all but one game of the College World Series, and in that game he did score a run. So every single game of the College World Series, Dylan Dreing either drove in or scored a run. That game where Christian Moore hit for the cycle, very impressive. Dylan Dreing was 4 or 6 in that game with 3 RBIs. So it's not like he wasn't valuable too in that one. 2 days later, when Tennessee beats North Carolina 6-1, Dylan Dreing managed to drive in a run that game. Then they go, or to score a run, excuse me. Then they go beat Florida State again, 7-2. Dylan Dreing drives in a run that game. So if you were to just go the NCAA tournament going into the College World Series, I would say Christian Moore was more the MVP than Dylan Dreing, or the College World Series finals, excuse me. But once you add the College World Series finals production, and not that Christian Moore wasn't valuable, his home run was very valuable, but Dylan Dreing hit a home run every single game in the College World Series. You just can't underestimate that or understate that or overstate that, I guess is the phrase. Not to mention, Dave, he had 5 RBIs, I believe, 6. In the 2 wins, he had 4 RBIs. All of them came with 2 outs. It was incredibly clutch.
You know, the other thing about Dreing, too, to speak to your point, please hit that like and subscribe button. Didn't it feel a little like SEMO could go ballistic on somebody at any moment, whereas Dreing felt like that constant at the plate and on the field? I just felt like as long as Tennessee was in control, SEMO, Christian Moore, was fine. But if something went south, I was always a little bit concerned, and I thought his emotions were always on the verge of getting the most of him. That was never the case with Dreing, who was as chill as, well, I don't know, something you might get from the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. That's Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. The promo code HOOK for 10% off. It's important in these games. Oftentimes it's pitching, Caleb, but it is important to have that constant. Dreing was that constant. He was bringing you a run a game. He was doing an awful lot for you. So it's really tough to go outside of that and make an argument. For those that are recent baseball fans, the young man is out of Kansas. He is a sophomore, so he will be back next season. And he may well be one of the stars of this program next year because, man, I can't imagine going to an off season as a champion with the type of confidence he must have, Caleb.
Yes, and let's break down. It wasn't just his performance which stands out. This was rare clutchness. This was Casey Clausen on the road clutchness, what he did. Because it wasn't just that he produced in the College World Series. It's when the moment got bigger, he produced. Like I said, he had 3 RBIs yesterday. All 3 came with 2 outs. All 3. And all 3 ended up being crucial. In the elimination game, which was yesterday, the rubber match game for all the marbles, what did Dylan Dreing do? He stepped to the plate 4 times. He reached base 3 of those times, one of them a home run. The only time he didn't reach base was a sac fly where he drove in a run. I mean, you can't overstate how impressive that is.
How does Tennessee not get an NIL endorsement? Because Me Drinker pointed it out. They corrected us both, Caleb. So I'm going to correct you and correct me at the same time. It's pronounced dryling. But how do they not get a dry cleaner as an NIL sponsor in the offseason? I mean, that writes itself.
You are right. You are so right. You got to get You have
Bob's
to.
Dry Cleaning.
Kind
Nobody.
of reminds me of DeColdest Crawford in Nebraska got an HVAC endorsement because his name is DeColdest. And
I mean, Ben's Dry Cleaning, brought to you by Dylan Dryling. Nobody.
taking out and by the way, he's also the cleanup hitter. Taking out the cleaners.
Oh, nobody cleans it up better than Dylan Dryling.
No one cleans it up better than Dylan Dryling.
That is beautiful. All right, portions of the program. A lot of the program is brought to you by Banks and Jones, the show represented by Banks and Jones. Tennessee also, by the way, broke a lot of curses. We're going to get to them in 60 seconds. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
4 downs, 4 questions, 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Last night was a streak breaker in a lot of different ways. Let's dive into that now. 4 downs brought to you by our good friend Don Self at State Farm. Cooper Mays is going to set us up as we tell you what impact the Vols national championship will have on their program for the foreseeable future. Coop, what do people need to do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Deal. Coop, what down is it?
Coop here. First down.
Vols title drought, whether you want to say it's since 1998 on the men's side or 2008 on the women's side. I guess because I wrote it 15 times over the past week, Caleb, that's a just nasty, disgusting stat line. I mean, both of those, that you haven't won a championship since 2008 and you have Tennessee's resources, that you haven't won a men's championship since 98 with their resources, that's not okay, right? I mean, if you're clearly on that second level of athletic departments, unless you start to post a championship every 5 or so years, right? Even South Carolina, who I don't think has a great athletic department, has baseball championships to throw in there.
Yeah, that's been a huge issue for Tennessee. They have been in a drought for so long with championships, and there's a lot of factors that when some of it's bad luck. I mean, we can point out look, Pat Summitt getting dementia totally out of their control. You know, that's you're talking about the greatest coach of all time, and she's forced to retire at age 59. And so we don't know how many more championships the Lady Vols may have won had that not happened. So some of that's bad luck. A lot of it is self-inflicted. Mismanagement of resources, really bad hires, attrition of athletic director after athletic director. And I mean, we talk about the decade of dysfunction. I mean, and that's how you get to where you were. And yeah, they struggled for a while. The 20 teens is going to be probably known as the worst decade in Tennessee athletics history. I mean, let's just call it what it is. And Jeremy Pruitt, you guys say whatever you want about Jeremy Pruitt, but when Tennessee beat Indiana you're going to laugh at this, Dave. Tennessee beat Indiana in the Gator Bowl to end the 2019 season. It was like the second day. It was on January 2nd, 2020. Jeremy Pruitt celebrates in the locker room and says, the 2020s will be the decade of the Vols. Turns out he might have been right about that. He just wasn't going to be a part of it.
Little recruiting info that's going to be a part of this is I'm going to spin that here in a second after second down, Coop.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Is the Peyton Manning curse finally over? They won a championship. There shouldn't have been a curse anyway, but the saying was they're always going to lose if he's in attendance because he lost to Florida while he was at Tennessee. Are we done with that now? Is it officially over?
Yes. By the way, that curse broke in 2022 when he was at the Tennessee-Alabama game and showed up on College Game Day.
I totally agree.
Peyton Manning made a great point about this because he made a joke about they say I'm the curse. And he's like, maybe they were just really bad when I was attending the games. And I'm like, yeah, that's more the truth of it.
Well, that's true, but Peyton doesn't need to be aware that he's a potential curse topic. He is so self-concerned with how he is viewed. Don Self State Farm is concerned with how you get your claim. Customer service still matters. For 40 years. They built their business on taking care of their customers in the greater Chattanooga area. Collegedale and Noodlewall, 423-396-2126, or go to donself.net. Again, donself.net, right down below. donself.net. What down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right. So are we now over the number one overall seed is a bad thing in college baseball? Because I will tell you this, I still think this is such a random sport and you have to get so lucky in so many ways. I think you need to be in the top half of the College World Series, but I think number 1 and number 4 are just about on a level playing field.
Can you believe that of all the teams to break that curse, Tennessee, who people believe is cursed, was the one to break it?
I know, that is bizarre.
I mean, like, that is next level bizarre. I never thought Tennessee would be the one to break that curse. And, I mean, they broke it. They won the SEC regular season title, the SEC tournament title, and then they won the College World Series national title as the number 1 overall seed. I did not see this coming. I got to be honest. I did not see that coming, that level of dominance. I'm the one who said they should lose the SEC title. I'm the one who said they needed to lose a game. I'll call myself out on that. But, I mean, that was just – the way they went about this was incredible. And credit to Tony Vitello on this. I always said, shorten your rotation, go with the best, try to force yourself with 2 wins at the College World Series. And he said, nope, it's just another series, and we're going to treat it like another series, and we don't believe in any of that curse stuff. And that's exactly how he approached this.
Last down.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
Now that the streak is broken, 1.5 championships. Over, under. Tony Vitello wins at Tennessee.
Yes, he's going to win another national title.
No.
He's going to win another national title.
Over, under is 1.5.
Over, because he's already got one.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Over under from this point forward is 1.5. 2.5.
I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under. I think one more, but it's so hard to win a national championship in college baseball. I mean, who's the last coach to win 3?
I'll tell you what, we'll do the research on that and get that to you. I'm going to put that as a poll question. Am I getting too swept up in the moment, the recency bias to say Tennessee will win 2 more championships under Vitello? Is that crazy? I mean,
I'm saying one, so it's not
I really think he will.
Really? You think he'll win 2? I mean, winning 3 national titles is that's incredible. Now, I mean, we have to think about this for a minute. I mean, I'm already on the Tony Vitello is on the men's side. On the men's side is the second greatest coach in Tennessee Vols history behind only General Nealon. I mean, that's a safe bet, isn't it? Who would you have over him?
Nobody. Nobody. I mean, well, did you say men's coach? Just making sure.
Men's. Just men's. Yeah. Pat Summitt obviously is above him. But
so we did put that on the poll question. Tennessee will win blank championships under Tony Vitello. 1 more, 2 more, 3 more. That's it. You get your 1. Enjoy it. And there's some part of me that wants to say enjoy it. Let's not look ahead too soon. I am incredibly happy. And I got a tip on this last week, and I didn't want to spread it out there because then Texas A&M or somebody else could have used it as they're already planning a championship event. Well, they are. Do you want to pull up the championship event news? Basically, they're going to take place in a parade. We'll get to some of the, I think it's on the website. We'll get to some of the specifics for those of you that might want to attend. But they were working on a parade and everything beforehand, and they're going to have a big celebration. And John Wilkerson is going to talk, and Danny White is going to talk, and all that's well and good. But kudos for just doing the dad blame right thing. Because do you know what the parade was like following the 1998 national championship team, Caleb?
I do not.
There wasn't one. There was no celebration. There was nothing. Nothing.
Well, that partially is on Fulmer. And Fulmer said he actually calls this probably his biggest regret. And I give him credit for this because he's all about delivering results. But he didn't want to do a parade because I read a story about it. He was on the road recruiting the day after the national title game. Like, he didn't want to, whatever you think about Fulmer, until about 2002, 2003, he had to be the most diligent recruiter that a football program ever had, right? I mean, he worked every day around the clock in recruiting.
Well, I get that, but it shouldn't be Fulmer's call. It should be above his call. And if you can't make it, you can't make it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's right. I don't think Fulmer wanted to be a part of a parade because he didn't want to lose ground recruiting.
Well, but I would argue the parade would help you because you would get more publicity in recruiting than necessarily being in front of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 prospects on a Tuesday evening.
I don't think a national champion in college football needs more publicity. The publicity's out there. Nobody's going to be like, well, they had a parade, so now I'm going to commit to them.
I disagree completely. I think it's a couple of more days.
That's borderline. I'm sorry. That's borderline Maryland thinking
their
jerseys would recruit.
I completely disagree. I think you're in another news cycle. You will see Tennessee as one of the top 2 or 3 stories on Wednesday having their celebration in Knoxville. And they were number 1 in the news cycle today in sports. So they'll be one of the top 3. No, I think another celebration. Now in football, I think it would have gotten you a couple more days. Nobody's going to forget that they're champions, but I don't know. I tune in and see parades, how many people show up. The fact that the Rams had approximately 38 people show up to their Super Bowl celebration. I mean, I like to see those sorts of things. I don't know. When you think of a championship, don't you think like the New York Yankees and a ticker tape parade going down downtown? I wanted something like that. I want to feel like that. But you're right. Philip Fulmer felt like he needed to recruit. Well, we know how that worked out because he didn't win another championship.
No, and that's why I think he regrets it now. This parade, though, with Tony Vitello leading it, I just think the alcohol might be flowing.
I'm going to okay. I have zero problem with those drink. I have no problem with it. I've imbibed several million times in my life as well. I don't currently drink, but I'll tell you this. I don't want this commando drinking thing to be a part of college athletics. And I'm not going to get on my soapbox long, but Tom Brady getting as physically drunk as he can and everybody else getting just inebriated as possible. Come on, you can have a good time. Some of these guys aren't even of age. Let's be real careful and not turn this into a disaster. Oh, you're giving
Come on,
me
Dave.
the snoozer sound. Is that
really,
what that
Dave?
is?
Really? Man, 50 has changed you, bro.
I don't know. You don't want to see a 20-year-old throwing a tequila bottle to somebody else.
Why not?
Do you?
Why not? Why not? Don't listen to Dave, everybody. First of all, Tom Brady, I don't think the thing was Tom Brady doesn't drink because he's so rigidly healthy. That's why he was so wasted at the parade, because he probably just had a couple of drinks and got totally like hammered from that. But no, this is Tennessee, man. We're talking about the program that hands out victory cigars when they beat Alabama. Do they encourage smoking for people when they do that? Tennessee, the battle for the beer barrel when they play Kentucky. They're already encouraging drinking. It's Knoxville. Tennessee is all about we have the premium whiskey. Kentucky has the bourbon. Okay? So, no. Drinking is embedded in the culture of Tennessee history. Okay? No. I mean, it's Appalachia. Moonshine. NASCAR got famous first because people had to race moonshine and tried to race it across the state lines away from police trying to outrun police. Okay?
Yes,
this is
one of us may have even done that ourselves. Hit like and subscribe now. New program on tap. Tennessee is a national champion. That is kind of fun to hear for a lot of you guys. I mean, it is absolutely, it's a little unbelievable from a sinking in perspective that Tennessee has finally done this. And it was last night as well. Great job.
And Dave wants you guys all to celebrate in suits and say, We won a national title. That's
I
very
don't
nice.
want that at all. I just don't think the commando drinking. Somebody's going to end up getting hurt, aren't they? Portions of the program.
If one person gets hurt, that's a success. That's fine.
Well, it's fair. Portions of the program brought to you by our good friend Ray Varner at
Big Ben 4x4, 29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, 51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, 46,929. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Ray Varner Ford right there in Clinton, Tennessee. That's where I would go for a truck. Caleb, so you want this party, this celebration to get as wild as possible. Is that what you're telling me?
Get lit. Have it all. And that's the millennial phrase. Apparently, I'm old for using that now because I apparently Gen Z has new phrases. I'm sorry, but I respect the new phrases. I'm all for it. Get whatever Gen Z says is the term for lit. Okay. So light up Gay Street, like party it up and let the world see how much fun Knoxville is. The whole culture of Tennessee baseball is why they're successful. They are a fun team. They bring funness to baseball. That's why a lot of people hate them because it's like, oh, you shouldn't butt flip when you hit a home run. That's not the way the game is played. Yes. Okay. No, this is the most fun team in all of sports. I want party after party after party in Knoxville. And I saw a commenter early say it, and I agree. Started at Memphis and go across the state. Party from Memphis to Johnson City. Okay. Just go straight across I-40.
Dylan says, I want Johnny Manziel frat party at A&M level of party on the streets tonight. Fine.
Yes. Do
Fine.
it. Do it.
Take away the underage drinking laws. Remove them all. Just
They should remove them anyway. How can you go fight for your country, but you can't drink at 18?
That's enough. I'm with you on that, but that's a whole nother discussion, my friend. 2 minutes. And then coming up, we're going to compare the 2024 baseball title to the 1998 national championship team that was won in that oblong sport. You'll want to hear this because there is some significance between the two, but a lot of differences, which is pretty cool. And I think says a lot about Tennessee's athletic program moving forward. 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off Thug Sports.
Big Ben 4x4, 29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, 51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, 46,929. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show. a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
Show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksandjones.com. Why Banks & Jones? Other lawyers say they'll go to trial. They won't. They'll settle. Not Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. New poll question that is on the YouTube page. We would love for you to take part of that. Let's go back and take a look at the other one. And people, I love for people just to post championship on the board. It's a fun day. Enjoy it, that was the topic of my column, is that they just don't come along. Back in 1998, probably thought you'd have several more under Philip Fulmer's belt, but that just doesn't happen. As you would expect, Dylan Dreing ran away with the MVP of the entire College World Series a little bit earlier. We had that posted up. He got 89% of the vote. SEMO got 10% of the vote. Cal Stark got he got a big zero. No, I'm sorry. He got what did Stark get? I've lost Stark. He got 0%. Good job, Cal. Now, which major sport wins the next championship? I've got football, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball again. That is on the YouTube page. Take part in that right now. Let's get it up. I want your vote. Football says 73% of our listeners / viewers. Men's basketball, 9%. Baseball, again, 25%. Women's basketball, 0%. How much is football wishful thinking, Caleb?
How can I call them wishful thinking when I think football is... I've been high on football winning it this year since we started the show together, Dave, 2 years ago. I've been saying 2024 is Tennessee's year, have I not? And
yeah. So it wouldn't be a surprise to you. So let's change gears a little bit then.
Well, okay, sorry.
Or go ahead, continue.
I was going to say, if you wanted to bet, the most obvious bet would probably be baseball again, or men's basketball. Heck, even, I don't know if you consider it a major sport, but softball. Tennessee's a top 5 program consistently in softball, and they could win it all in that. So
it's not deemed a major sport, but it would get a lot of pub.
Yeah, so I think any of those three, Tennessee would be a probably more likely bet according to Vegas than football. So if Vegas were setting these odds, they would have baseball number 1, because I think Tennessee is going to be the favorite to win it all next year in baseball. They would have men's basketball number 2. I'm sorry, no, they'd have softball number 2. They'd have softball number 2. They'd have men's basketball number 3. They'd have football number 4, and they'd have women's basketball number 5. And the reason is women's basketball is not going to be able to compete probably for a couple of years, at least.
Agreed. Football, I think, is an incredibly well-run program, but the competition, especially with having a Kirby Smart just down the road, is really difficult. It's tough for me to go with Rick Barnes. Okay, women's basketball to me is out. Baseball is the correct answer. But let's take a second and compare basketball and football. I'm sorry. Yeah, but basketball and football. Football is incredibly tough. Basketball is incredibly tough because, no offense to Rick Barnes, but you have a guy that has not shown he can get to the Final Four consistently. So even if you said Rick Barnes, Tennessee basketball makes the Final Four and count that as a championship, okay, that's our qualifier on this, I still might take football to win a national championship before I would take Rick Barnes to make a Final Four at Tennessee. Is that crazy?
No, it's not crazy, but it's funny how me and you have 180 from over a year ago, because I said, and you said this past year's Tennessee team was different just because of Dalton Connect. I said that's actually reflective more of Rick Barnes' changing philosophy. He's the only guy I know that changed his philosophy at age 69. And I said the change in philosophy is going to make it more conducive for Tennessee to go far in the NCAA tournament.
Okay, but let me stop you for a second to make sure that those that don't listen get to listen every single day. Hit the like and subscribe button. Tell me what the change in philosophy is. I know, but just tell everybody.
Rick Barnes, he always ran tempo, that's fine, but he was much more willing to play small ball and use floor spacing and rely less on the mid-range game for scoring. And he made it a point to make sure Tennessee had a minimum number of shooters out there at any given time. So if they were in an offensive drought, someone was bound to shoot him out of the slump. And he made sure he had a go-to scorer who, if everything broke down, that guy could get him out of a slump. That was not a Rick Barnes philosophy. Rick Barnes' philosophy for the longest time was somewhat the flex offense with a tie-in with the motion offense where, you just look for the best shot, turn up the tempo on defense, and really grind your players defensively. And even if that wears you out offensively. And it would prove costly in tournament time because there wouldn't be enough shooters to go around or if Tennessee was in a drought, to get them out of it. So this past year, he switched to a high-low motion offense, made Dalton Connect his go-to guy, and the big one, he took the foot off the gas in March. I mean, Rick Barnes literally, y'all are going to call me crazy on this. Tennessee made it to the Elite Eight after Rick Barnes, I keep saying it, purposely threw the SEC tournament. Straight up through it.
Well, I don't think anybody's arguing with you at this point.
Which I said he should do, and he listened to me.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what he did. Here's my question. If it takes a Dalton Connect for you to change your approach, then are you really that close to a championship if you're changing your approach? I give him credit for changing it. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But I look at Tennessee's football team and they're going out and get players that fit their approach, and their approach is very good. Whereas Rick Barnes, I think it's funny how people say, you know what some team in the SEC should do? They should just start running the wing T. Theoretically, something like that could work, right? If you had to face the wishbone or something goofy, a flex bone, whatever, if you had to face that every week, it theoretically would work, right, Caleb?
Right.
Okay, but the coaches don't know how to coach it. Just like you can't go to Barry Switzer right now and say, Coach Josh Heupel's offense. I mean, it's two different offenses. I mean, you got to know how to coach it.
Barry Switzer didn't even have to coach his Super Bowl team. So that's
not like I just say, I like Hawaiian shirts, so I'm going to go out and get a shirt like Caleb's. No, it's much more.
You got to actually look good in it like I do.
You look fantastic. So to say that you give a lot of credit to Rick Barnes for changing his system, but I give a lot of credit to Josh Heupel for having a system that wants to pull in prospects and getting the right system to fit in there. I'd rather get a Nico that's a perfect fit than a Dalton and have to change everything, because they're going to have to change everything again. This year, they're not going to have an ISO player like Dalton.
No,
so the answer to the question,
you are totally wrong on that.
The answer to the question, no, I know they've got a stretch four now, and I think they're going to do things different, but I don't think they have a one-on-one player from people I've talked to that can ISO, that can do that Auburn game like Dalton did. So I'm going to answer the question like this. I'm going to say that baseball is the obvious one. They're most likely to win another championship like next year. Okay. Next, I'm going to go football because I just don't believe in Rick Barnes. I've seen a lot of Rick Barnes not winning the championship. I've seen a lot recently of Josh Heupel preparing a team to win a championship. So I'll take the potential over the history. And lastly, there's really no argument. The Lady Vols, they're rebuilding that program. Hit like and subscribe. Caleb.
Okay, so again, you're forcing me into a corner because I am going football too, because I think football's winning it this year, because it's not just Josh Heupel's system.
You would go baseball,
well,
right?
Baseball, but yes, football after that. It's not just Josh Heupel's system. It's the quarterback built in a lab to run the system. I keep telling you guys, this is Tim Tebow landing in Urban Meyer's lap. All right, so that's where I met with this. Rick Barnes,
wait a second.
though,
Neither one of those guys landed in labs. I mean, there was
Tim Tebow fell out of it. Urban Meyer took the Florida job when it just so happened that the best quarterback ever to run his system was coming out of high school in Florida. Do you know how lucky that is?
Yeah, well, it's lucky, but he didn't fall in his lap. I mean, Alabama made a hard push. I give Urban Meyer credit for that recruitment, because I thought he was going to go to Alabama somewhat late before he committed.
Dave, but let's be honest. The minute Tim Tebow saw that offense, Tim Tebow would not have worked at Alabama with Mike Shula. He would have ran a standard under center pro style offense, and he probably would have been a bust in college had that happened, right? It was the spread offense that he needed to run. Yeah. So I think the minute that's the thing. Urban Meyer went to Florida, while the best quarterback possible ever to run the spread offense was coming out of high school and was in Florida. So that was luck a little bit. Josh Heupel got Nico Iamaleava, and I think that's why I got him winning it this year. But to defend Rick Barnes, you think Rick Barnes changed his style after Dalton Connect. I think it's the opposite. I think Rick Barnes changed his approach, which is why he landed Dalton Connect. And I look at the way he's been going after players this year. He's gone for the stretch four. He's gone to spread out the court. He's gone for multiple shooters, and he's looking to see if one of them can end up being the ISO player. Because we're talking Darlington Dubar, who is basically the same profile of a player as Dalton Connect. Igor Milicic isn't going to be an ISO player. He's a stretch four. But Darlington Dubar or Chaz Lanier could end up being an ISO player. I mean, Chaz Lanier was highly touted across the country with the way he developed at the end of last year. And so
where you and I differ, I don't think those two guys are on Dalton's level. I think that's a once a decade top player.
And that's where you're right. That is where I do differ. I think,
and if I'm wrong, then you've got then Tennessee has a great shot of making another Elite Eight or beyond. But would you try, even if I'm wrong, would you trust Rick Barnes to take them to the Final Four or beyond?
Yes, with this philosophy that he has now, yes. I think Dalton Connect is going to turn out to be Dalton Connect is Shane Matthews. Everybody thought Shane Matthews was great when he played for Steve Spurrier. Then everybody realized, every quarterback does this under Steve Spurrier. You're about to see that with Rick Barnes' system.
He's just, Shane. How does this Tennessee baseball team compare to the last championship team, which was back in 1998? Remember that football team winning the championship?
The last championship team of a major men's sport.
Major men's sport. I said men's.
You said major. But you have to say major. Because
okay, so the major sports, because we had a question about track earlier in the message board. The major sports as deemed by the NCAA, for better or for worse, you can argue it, are men's and women's basketball, baseball, and football. And don't be surprised if baseball is bigger than basketball at the college level before too terribly long. Tennessee's 1998 national championship team was pretty special. So is this one. Comparing the two, brought to you by Medicare Misty.
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
All righty. Caleb, you ready for a crazy statement?
I'm ready.
Tennessee's 2024 baseball championship is far more impressive than the 1998 national championship team. And the reason I say that is because it was cobbled together with a coach that had no ties to the University of Tennessee. He was hired by an athletic director that obviously things didn't work out, but he sure did. Talking about Vitello. Philip Fulmer was born, bred, and raised through Tennessee's football program. So was Johnny Majors. That set up Tennessee's 1998 national championship team. Good for them, but they had to toil for 30 years to do that. This is Tony Vitello's from scratch 7th year. If I compare the two championships, they're not even close. Tennessee's 2024 baseball championship is more impressive than the 1998 national championship season. Tell me I'm wrong, Caleb.
Here's why you're wrong. If you look at it from a program perspective, You are right. Philip Fulmer, let's just break this. Philip Fulmer took over a program that was already a top 10 program and had all the support and resources possible to be great. There were a lot of things that went into play that allowed him to get the talent. Tony Vitello, like you said, had to build a program from absolute scratch that really had never been that successful. They had a couple of College World Series appearances. They had like 4 in school history, but they had not really been anything successful. So you are right about that. You are very right. But in a vacuum, the season itself, no, the 98 national title was more impressive. Because think about this, Dave. Tennessee, in 1998, they entered 1998 having to replace their greatest quarterback in school history. They have to replace their go-to receiver in Marcus Nash. They have to replace arguably one of their, top 3 best defensive players in school history in Leonard Little that year. And, I mean, they lost 6 All-SEC performers, 2 All-Americans, and they start the year on the road at Syracuse with Donovan McNabb, and then the next game they have to play number 2 Florida while they are supposed to be in a rebuilding year. That's incredible. They somehow get past those 2 games. And just when things are looking up, their best weapon goes down for the season in Jamal Lewis.
You know the best part of your argument, right?
What?
People around Tennessee's program are used to it, but it's replacing Peyton Manning. Do you still kind of scratch your head and think, how in the world did Tennessee win a championship the year after Peyton Manning, their best player ever, left? Paris Hilton even says,
that's hot.
Caleb, that's the thing that we sometimes take for granted, don't you think?
Yeah, I think part of it was, look, there's a lot of things to criticize about Fulmer's coaching here and there at different times. And I think the biggest difference between 97 and 98, Dave, across the board, the coaching was significantly better in 98 than it was in 97. Despite the same staff, they did a much better job. 97, and we've had Fred White talk about this a lot too. One, they put Leonard Little at middle linebacker, which you've talked about was terrible. But the other point was, as Fred White has pointed out a lot, they put a lot on Peyton Manning that year. They really didn't give him a run game until halfway through the season with Jamal Lewis. They really were asking him to just completely run the offense with no help.
And it wasn't just not using Jamal Lewis. It was also not handing the ball to Mark Levine. If you thought he was better and he was a better pass protector, you still have to hand him the ball.
Exactly.
No, I'm with you completely. Now, can I fortify your argument here a little bit? Well, I guess it'd be fortifying my argument. Both. You are in an area in East Tennessee that has a lot of talent around it. I understand that it's not an incredibly talented state. Baseball, you can't rely on in-state talent. So I guess I'm strengthening my argument. And that is Tennessee has had to go coast to coast to get the top baseball talent. And they've done that. They pulled players from all over the place. They haven't been married to South Florida like Rod Delmonico was. They haven't continued to try to play the transfer game as they did with Ahuna, and that didn't work out. This is a baseball program that can recruit with anybody in the nation. Tennessee can as well, but maybe not to this ilk now that the Vols are national champions. That ring is going to win you some prospects.
Yes, well, but that goes to the point, though. If you talk about overall program building of what led to the national championship, Tony Vitello's job is way more impressive than Philip Fulmer's. Way more. Not even close. But if you talk about the coaching job in a vacuum of that season, it's Fulmer in 98, and it's not even close. Whatever you guys think about Fulmer and the coaching staff, that 98 coaching job, that's one of the most flawless, superb coaching jobs I've ever seen a program do. Okay, and I mean...
Okay, but to strengthen my argument, he stepped into that coaching staff too. That coaching staff was already pretty well put together when he took the job in 92.
But wait, yes, that's why I'm saying no, but that's my point. If you talk about who was more impressive with what they took over, it's Vitello. Vitello built a program. I'm talking about the vacuum of the season itself. Forget what they took over. Forget everything. Just think
the
about
vacuum of the season itself. I'm totally with you. Given
yeah,
how
it's 98.
Now, More impressive in terms of a storyline, that was Tennessee football. Now I'm going to split hairs with you here, okay? That was an impressive storyline because you had beating Florida. You had the you had the Arkansas game with the fumble. You had playing a Florida State team. You had the comeback in the SEC championship. I mean, it's almost like I wrote a book about it. I know quite a bit about it. But Tennessee's baseball season and championship is more impressive because why? They're the first SEC team to win 60 games, and they're the first Tennessee baseball team to win a championship. They were far more dominant. So let me go with this. The 98 team in a vacuum, as you say, was more compelling. Okay. This baseball team was far more dominant. Are you cool with that?
I'm cool with that. This baseball team was more dominant. This baseball team, put it this way, they were a better baseball team than the 98 team was a football team.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yes. But what the 98 team overcame is just so impressive. I don't know of a college football team that overcame more from just on the field. I don't mean like we know at tragedies off the field, things like that. But like what the 98 team overcame to win it. Again, you're replacing your quarterback. You lost 6 all-SEC players, 2 All-Americans. You lost a ton of players to the draft. And you come out of the gate having to play 2 teams that made BCS Bowls that year, one on the road as your first game with the new quarterback, and then Florida at home, who you hadn't beaten in 5 years. And then just when you get it rolling, your best player goes down with a season-ending injury as you have to go face another undefeated top 10 team on the road in Georgia. I mean, and that's why I say that was just – And again, overall, look, Tony Vitello would never – I'll say this much for Tony Vitello. He would never make the mistakes that Fulmer, Cutcliffe, and Chavis made in 97. Is that fair? He would never make those type of coaching blunders because those are some bad blunders that all 3 of them made. But at the same time –
Mountain Red made me giggle on the message board. So you tell me that Tony Vitello is a better coach than Philip Fulmer. That's what you're saying.
I am, but I am saying Philip Fulmer's coaching job in 98 is one of the most impressive coaching jobs of any coach of all time. I mean, for some reason, Philip Fulmer was good at this. He somehow managed things well when his back was against the wall. But once the wind was at his back, he always squandered it. Isn't that what it seemed like?
Yeah. And Mead Drinkers on the message board, he was one of the first to say, hey, you need to check out this baseball team, and good call by that. But he said, will this team go down as one of the best ever teams? I think it will. And the cool part is you don't usually look at what guys do in the major leagues to look at the best college baseball teams ever. You do that a lot of times in football, right? You look at what they do in the NFL, but you don't do that in college baseball. Yeah, I think it goes down as one of the greatest teams ever. I don't think there's any question about that. And if not for that one slip up against Evansville, I mean, it's okay to lose in the College World Series finals, but you shouldn't have lost to Evansville. Maybe that'll be the one thing that's going to keep them from being considered one of the greatest ever. But I'm not going to pretend to know college baseball well enough to call them one of the best teams ever. But let's remember that there was a good portion of some great teams that used trampoline bats that almost killed people. So a lot of those teams, to me, get struck out of the conversation, just like Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, and Sammy Sosa do when it comes to steroids. So struck them out of the conversation. Yeah, there's no question in my mind that Tennessee is posted one of the best seasons, is one of the best baseball teams in the history of college baseball. And I will stand by that statement, Caleb. I don't think there's really any argument to be had with 60 wins, regular season champion, conference championship, which basically means nothing, and then winning the College World Series. What more do you have to do?
Yeah, no, this team was super dominant all year. So, I mean, you have to give a lot of credit to this team and everything they did. And I'm not denying that. They're loaded with talent. By the way, I just want to point this out. It's not like the 98 team wasn't loaded with talent. I mean, people say the 97 and 99 teams had more talent. I sometimes push back on that. That's a debate I would have with you or Fred White. I'm not so sure the 99 team was more talented than the 98 team. And I've had that thought for a while. But this team was
I think it was just because of experience. Now, Jimmy said something on the message board, not to go after Jimmy, but Jimmy said Randy Sanders' first OC job was against Florida State. Cutcliffe left before the national championship game against Florida State. Mickey Andrews was the DC at Florida State. They were clueless about Sanders. What would Sanders call an offense? Are you telling me that Tennessee had a better chance of winning the game without David Cutcliffe as a part of the coaching staff? Come on.
Yeah, that's.
By the way, he went to Ole Miss. But yeah, he went to Ole Miss. For those that don't know, that's silly. He probably wrote up the game plan, and I know that he helped prepare it. Even
and by the way, Tennessee, what was the key play of that game? The Dwayne Goodrich pick six. What did the offense coordinator have to do with that? And the other key play was a bomb to Peerless Price. David Cutcliffe was calling bombs to Peerless Price all year. But the reason I say the 98 team might have been better
fact too, that was just a better football team, especially with Marcus Outson, the third string quarterback under center for the Seminoles. I mean, those two teams weren't even close on that day. Personally, my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And where I was going to get at was with. So I get you saying you think the 99 team was more talented with experience, but the 98 team, I mean, let's think about the significant losses. You don't replace Al Wilson and Peerless Price. I mean, Cedric Wilson, you respect Cedric Wilson, but he's not on Peerless Price's level.
Oh, I know. If you look at it analytically, you love analytics, you would say it's more talented, but Al Wilson, Hart, Peerless Price, Clutch, which I know you don't believe in, but I mean,
I do with Peerless Price.
Okay, those two
and
things.
Jeff Hall too, who was way better than Alex Walls. Like that's a giant drop off in kicking.
Great point all around. Hit that like and subscribe button. Do it now. Let's take a look at this poll question we have going on the YouTube message board that we want you to vote on. What was Tennessee's better national championship? We use the word better instead of compelling or most dominant because it allows it to be open to interpretation. The 1998 football team gets 56% of the vote. The 2024 baseball team gets 42% of the vote. I'll be honest. I'm a little surprised the baseball team's holding tight. This tends to be a football channel, a football city, a football program. I thought the 98 football team would run away with it, Caleb. I'll be honest. And maybe they will. It's at 59 to 41% right now. Go ahead and vote on our YouTube page. Thoughts?
People are also prisoners of the moment a lot of times. And
I think we are too, right?
I'm never a prisoner of the moment. I don't know what you're talking about. I am always right and always objective 1,000% of the time.
It's so humble. That's what I love.
Yeah, my opinions are always right. So
love the humbleness. All right, so where are we now? We've compared the 2024 baseball team to the 1998 football Vols. We've also discussed which major UT sport wins the national title next. Coming up, what a national title says for Tennessee's athletic program, because they had been the talk of the town in the country, but they still didn't really have a date to the prom with a championship. They do now. Give me 2 minutes, and I'll tell you why. This win will lead to more, and it's so big for the Vols. Also helps with one young man in college football recruiting. I'll tell you next.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
There's your man.
Experience it all at Ray Varner Ford in Clinton. Need a quick fix or maintenance? Visit our Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center. Keep your Ford running smoothly with the experts in our service department. Ready for your next Ford? Our sales team is here to guide you to this 24 Ford Bronco Sport Big Ben 4x4, $29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, $51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, $46,929. Local you trust, experience you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Highly touted prospect took note of Tennessee's baseball championship, a highly touted prospect in football. I'll tell you who that is here just momentarily, as we get into a very interesting conversation that is a little bit nebulous, but is one that I think we need to have. Go ahead and start it with this phrase. This championship for Tennessee will lead to more.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
There's really no reason to think that one championship would lead to another. They're all individual, even team to team, year to year. Teams are different. It's not just the next year's team is going to be exactly the same. People come, people go. So I can't say that Tennessee's definitely going to win a national championship next year because they have the same team. But I can tell you that I don't think Tony Vitello is going anywhere. And we reported that Texas might have some interest, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'll also take away something that may be a little bit too emotional, Caleb, and correct me if I'm wrong. But the fact that you had Josh Heupel there, the fact that you had Rick Barnes there supporting Tennessee's baseball team tells me they're in it for the long haul too. Obviously, Rick Barnes is 69. I'm not sure how long the haul is. But anyway, he's not looking for another job like UCLA like he once was. Same thing for Josh Heupel, who one day might have an opportunity if Brent Venables runs afoul of their administration and then the administration is replaced. That's a big if. But I think Tennessee wins another championship because it raises the bar on the entire athletic department, shows it can be done, but Tennessee's unity and consistency is what will win them another national title or two. I wonder why Kim Caldwell wasn't there, Caleb. But your thoughts on my contention that was a showing of unity that will result in more championships?
I think it absolutely was, and I think this is something we have been talking about for a while, and which is that Tennessee has been considered, particularly since Danny White took over, one of the premier athletic programs, everything programs in the country. But it was always with a caveat because they didn't have any hardware that they had brought home yet. They needed to bring home a championship of some sort. So it was a huge deal for them to bring home a championship in baseball because weirdly, Tennessee, for instance, I'll just give you guys an example. LSU, Tennessee has a much better overall well-rounded athletic program than LSU. But LSU is generating all the coverage for winning it with Angel Reese and women's basketball and winning it in baseball, right? And yeah. And then who was the gymnastics athlete? I forget her name, who had the NIL deals too, made it big. Tennessee kept knocking on the door everywhere, but wasn't bringing home any hardware. And it was crucial that they brought home some hardware to legitimize them as an everything sport and brag about their Directors Cup standing that they do every year. I think Heupel and Rick Barnes knew that. And I do think that they're all in this together to help recruit.
By the way, Kim Caldwell is not there yet because Kim Caldwell is literally building a program from the ground up. She doesn't have time to go out to Omaha.
I'm not hating on her. I wasn't hating on her.
Yeah,
still, you could have a private plane and get out there. I would have gotten out there.
That is the one program that has to actually be rebuilt. Every other program is rolling at the top of its game right now. Is that fair to say?
Okay, I'm telling you, I would have gone out there.
She didn't need to go out there.
I'm just telling you, I would have gone out there. When they have a get together, I mean, you've been in the corporate world more than me, so maybe you know. But when they say you got this get together and it's a celebratory, fun get together, I would go out of my way to get there. But I don't know. She may have been recruited. She may have been recruiting the next Candace Parker. I don't know. So don't let
that's
that
what
sound
I'm
like
pointing out. Yes, she could have been recruiting the next Candace Parker.
Okay, so I don't want it to sound like an insult. Fair. But anyway, let's get back to the men's side of it. You had Barnes, you had Heupel there. I thought that was significant. I thought that was very significant. And let's face it, football is going to be a lot harder to win a championship in than the other two sports. I believe, because of what Tennessee has to face year in and year out in football, and then basketball, the postseason's a crapshoot. So it's nice to have a little support from either the baseball team or the Lady Vols at some point, as Tennessee has had historically, right? I mean, when your football team can't bring them the hardware, somebody needs to.
Yes, you're right. And I think many thought basketball had a chance to do it this year, but they didn't. So, yeah, baseball bringing it home. And baseball was the biggest one because baseball was the biggest lifter of all the sports. If you look at the production the last 4 years with Tony Vitello, and it was the one that kept knocking on the door and was unable to bring home a national title. So I think baseball was the one that you felt you were going to get a championship in baseball first if you were a Tennessee fan.
Okay, I want to go ahead.
Yeah, the other sports are good, but basketball has been close to baseball's level the last couple of years, but baseball's been low-key dominant in the SEC the last few years. So it looks weird for Tony Vitello to not have a national championship on his resume yet. I mean, it was like Bo Schembechler not having a national title in football, which he never won at Michigan.
No, that's Bo Schembechler. That's actually a great point. Except I think most of the ladies would agree that Tony Vitello is much better looking than Bo Schembechler. Let me give you a specific reason how Tennessee has already benefited from a championship via college football recruiting. So tell everybody about David Sanders. Who's David Sanders for those that don't know, Caleb?
David Sanders is a 5-star offensive lineman who has reportedly been favoring Tennessee or Clemson as the number 3 rated player nationally in the 2025 recruiting class. Tennessee is targeting him heavily.
The number 1 offensive tackle in the nation out of Charlotte, where Tennessee needs to be. Here is what he posted. If you're on our video profile, David Sanders posts a congratulatory message to Tennessee for being national champions. Let me tell you a story, guys. And I've told this before, so Caleb's heard it. So I'm going to tell it really quick. Terry Fair was an all-pro and never would have played for Tennessee had it not been for coincidentally seeing the Lady Vols in the Final Four. This will lead to football, basketball, and baseball commitments. That David Sanders type of guy may be that type of guy. I love his tape. I love everything about him. But if you're asking me what a national title says about the Vols' overall athletic program, it's that it just continues to feed itself. And Caleb, it is a program, if you can pull yourself in trouble. There we go. No, now I just got you. But it is a program, Caleb, that now can benefit from more exposure. So when Josh Heupel hosts some official visitors, he can say, this is the type of thing that they're doing at Tennessee. It's a complete program that it's a complete athletic department now with a national championship trophy. I think you could finish second 100 times. And if you don't finish first once, you're not a complete athletic department. Is that too harsh?
No, I mean, I agree that was the whole key point of this. Tennessee was actually getting lit up and laughed at by other programs because they would brag about their Directors Cup standings, and everybody would say, "Hey, you guys haven't won a national title yet, and you're bragging about second place everywhere." So, again, as the great Nelly once said, 2 is not a winner, and 3 nobody remembers.
There you go. For just $9.98, you can follow football recruiting on Hooker's Corner, where we have that David Sanders breakdown. Also, more recruiting coverage coming up, including player evals, just $9.98. And we have weekly prizes and a monthly grand prize for those that are members of that. So the QR code is on your page. If you're on our video platform, please join. We greatly appreciate that. And hit the like and subscribe button. Again, greater interaction between me and Caleb. You can just bug Caleb more than his newborn Quincy. You can just call him at like 2 a.m. We'll give you his private bat line number. A national title, the other thing that it says about Tennessee's athletic department is that they want to be well-rounded. And Lady Vol fans, you need to listen to this because a lot of you have a chip on your shoulder. Correct, Caleb?
Not younger ones. This is from the older
a lot
families,
of Lady Vol fans have a chip on their shoulder, correct?
Older ones. Yes, I'm only going older ones. I don't think that applies to the younger fan base.
Okay. Nevertheless, a lot of Lady Vol fans have a chip on their shoulder because football treated them like a second-class citizen in the 90s and the 80s. And I get that, despite having a legendary coach in Pat Summitt. But it is time for the Lady Vols to say to themselves, this Danny White guy wants everybody to win. He wants us to win. May not be a revenue sport, but wants to at least minimize losses. Wants championships. Caleb, a women's basketball championship is comparable in publicity to a baseball championship. So if I'm a Lady Vol fan and I see all that Danny White has poured into baseball, I'm really excited about the future. And I don't want to hear any Lady Vol fans upset about the fact that they didn't hire a Pat Summitt disciple, that they hired somebody with a different style. I'm done with that. You need to be excited, Lady Vol fans, because Danny White obviously wants to win you a championship as well.
Yes. Yes. And by the way, this is what's so crucial with it. This is what, if you're a Lady Vols fan, this is what you wanted. You wanted to be treated with the same respect of every other program. You know how you treat the Lady Vols with the same respect as every other program? You hire for the women's basketball program as if you would hire for any other sport. And you don't sit there and say we're somehow unique because of the Pat Summitt thing, so we got to do the Pat Summitt tie. No, you go for the best coach, the one who will institute the best splash, which he did in Kim Caldwell. I think they are. I think many Lady Vol fans are excited. I do. I think there's a lot of excitement. There was a lot of, and you saw this towards the end of last year, Dave, because I've seen this with Kelly Harper now, and I saw it with Holly Warlick. There was a groundswell of Tennessee fans in general who wanted both of them gone. There was a groundswell of Tennessee fans that weren't even part of the Lady Vol contingency that said, hey, this is not the standard for women's basketball. And it was honestly sometimes Lady Vol contingency that would say, no, you don't understand. Holly Warlick or Kelly Harper represent the Pat Summitt era of women's basketball. And in my thought, I'm like, who's really holding the Lady Vols to the standard that they should be held at right now? Because it seems like the football, men's basketball, other sports fans that the Lady Vol fan base felt like didn't care enough about the Lady Vols. They're the only group of people that is trying to hold the Lady Vols to the standard that Pat Summitt set for them. And
I agree. I think Tip Jackson, that's the first time I've seen you post, said Danny wants to win at Spelling Bees. I think that's true. I think Danny White does win at Spelling Bees. You're always a winner when you go to Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. They've got daily updates on Facebook. If you go to Sports Treasures TN, I'm sharing it all the time on Off the Hook Sports. And I guarantee on our Facebook Off the Hook Sports page, I guess that you're going to have all kinds of choices because I know Zach was out there and he's going to bring back some goodies. We'll have this this day in Tennessee sports history coming up momentarily. But again, check out Sports Treasures in North Knoxville or follow on Facebook Sports Treasures TN Sports Treasures. TN. Also want to thank our friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, the Tennessee tradition? Go to rickterryjewelry.com, rickterryjewelry.com, and you can see just over my shoulder some fantastic items that they have, including the Tennessee pendant, the Power Tee pendant, and the Power Tee cufflinks. Pretty darn awesome. So check it out, rickterryjewelry.com. And we have the Great Garmin Challenge that we will announce tomorrow. This day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our good friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. What do you got?
I want to send a special happy birthday to a guy who was at Tennessee during the Ernie and Bernie show, and honestly was as impactful, but just didn't seem to get the same credit. And I'm talking about Reggie Johnson, the 4-year center for Tennessee, whose freshman year averaged 11 points a game and was a member of Bernard King and Ernie Grunfeld. And then his senior year was teammates with Dale Ellis in the transition to the Don DeVoe era. Reggie Johnson, over 4 years at Tennessee, averaged over 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks a game. Was a 6'9" center at the time. That would be a forward now, but then ended up going to be drafted by the San Antonio Spurs in the first round of the 1980 NBA draft. Today is his birthday, and so just a very happy birthday to him. He was born, by the way, in 1957, so he turns 67 years old today.
I like that. I think that is a very good third player who gets lost because Ernie and Bernie sounds good together, right? And they were the top 2 players in the nation. I want to go to the message board for a second. Amy, if you haven't, hit the like and subscribe button, please do so because I like this input. I am one of the older Lady Vols fans and was very upset with Kim's hire. Since then, I've changed my mind. It was Caleb and Maria Cornelius's opinion that changed it. Thank you. So I think it's going to be an exciting style. Is she a championship coach? Caleb doesn't know. I don't know. I don't think Kim knows. So I think that we're going to have to wait and see. Hit that like and subscribe now as we get to something that, is
that's crazy.
Yeah, we got 2 guys going at each other, Antonio Brown and our old friend Lane Kiffin. Can you clarify what's going on, Caleb? I don't know if we're doing screen sharing or what we're doing here, but we got Lane versus Antonio in the battle of the ages on Twitter, X, Musk, whatever you call it.
Yeah, this was the great story of the weekend before, if you were following outside of the College World Series, obviously. And it ties into something we talked about last week. I am not going to screen share this Twitter feud because Antonio Brown used some language that we just don't want to use on this show. But basically this all started, and we actually talked about it last week with the Kelly Stafford story, where she acknowledged that she dated, quotes,
hooked up to Joe Cox while she was dating Matthew Stafford.
Allegedly Joe Cox. We don't know. It could have been another backup. We just know it was a backup.
I saw where it came out. It was confirmed, but who cares?
So, yeah, so Antonio Brown
tramped around with somebody.
Antonio Brown tweeted out a picture of Joe Cox and said, "Cracker of the day." Lane Kiffin retweets Antonio Brown with a maybe and a wandering emoji, suggesting that it may not have been Joe Cox and Lane Kiffin knows who it really was. That's where that's the vibe I got with that. Then it got real personal because
which, by the way, where does Lane Kiffin rank among people you don't want to get into a Twitter battle with?
Ooh,
he's top 10%, right?
Yeah, he's definitely top 10%. Definitely top 10%. So Antonio Brown retweets Coach STFU, which means Coach shut the F up, basically, to Lane Kiffin. As I think we all know, Lane Kiffin is not one to take Twitter shots lying down. Am I right?
He doesn't like to be trifled with on the social media.
Yeah, he really doesn't. So Lane Kiffin retweets Antonio Brown. He retweets Antonio Brown taking off his shirt and running off the field and puts the clown emoji with the okay. So it was like, okay, clown. it gets better because Lane Kiffin then, and I mean, this is absolutely hilarious, but Lane Kiffin then, sorry, I'm trying to pull it up now, retweets somebody making fun of Antonio Brown for being broke. Basically said Lane Kiffin's enjoying coaching in the SEC while Antonio Brown is filing for bankruptcy, because guess what? Antonio Brown is filing for bankruptcy. Antonio Brown then goes a little personal and goes, "Your wife next, B word, F her Indian style."
Whoa.
One Lane
I don't
Kiffin
even know
doesn't
what
have a wife.
Indian style is, and I don't want to know, but that is too personal for the Twitter.
Yeah, I know. So, and then Lane Kiffin blocked Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown goes, "Generational run continues." Yeah, this Lane Kiffin retweeted somebody that said, "Lane's making millions a year while you're struggling to pay child support." Said that to Antonio Brown.
Who has the younger girlfriend, Lane or Antonio Brown?
I don't know if Antonio Brown has a girlfriend. I'll tell you this, Lane's girlfriend, whatever you think about her, she's at least probably consenting.
Did Antonio Brown have a consent issue in his past?
Remember when he was released by the Patriots?
Oh. Jimmy says Lane turned in his free complimentary Infinity demo trashed out at the Knoxville dealership. I think that might have been a Mercedes. Smoky Mountain Red says, "I like Lane, but he is way too worried about his Twitter cred."
Wait, so okay, I want to ask a couple of questions on this. First of all,
Who ask you, is he a goofball for even engaging? I mean, he is an SEC coach. Antonio Brown's a guy without a job.
Antonio Brown is a broke guy without a job who wants attention on Twitter. Yeah. Who is probably one of the most disgraceful human beings in America right now, but I still enjoy his Twitter because it's hilarious. So I can't help myself. It's like before he passed away, I was actually following OJ's Twitter, and OJ's a horrible human, but like his Twitter was funny. I couldn't help myself.
Hello, Twitter world. I killed a couple people.
But so Antonio Brown is probably one of the most low character disgraces of a human, just piece of garbage out there. But his Twitter's too funny for me to ignore. I gotta say that. So I'll go in the vacuum of who won it later. But yeah, as far as Lane Kiffin engaging with Antonio Brown, given how low grade and low down of a person Antonio Brown is, it's kind of pathetic for Lane to engage with him. But at the same time, and I've said this last week, Dave, why do we I trashed Deion Sanders earlier in the year for getting into Twitter wars with athletes. I trashed Eli Drinkwitz for being a goofball. We trashed Brian Kelly for those weird recruiting videos he does. Why do I trash all of them? And I'll admit, I'm a hypocrite. So can you psychoanalyze me? Why am I, when Lane Kiffin does it, why am I enjoying it and like giving him a pass and finding it funny?
You're schizophrenic.
I'm schizophrenic.
You said psychoanalyze. I don't know. I mean, I think Lane is lighthearted about it, and that helps us accept it more. I mean, he doesn't go overboard. He doesn't say things that are mean-spirited. He just kind of pokes fun.
Oh, he made fun of Antonio Brown for being bankrupt and not being able to pay child support. It's a little mean-spirited. Not that Antonio Brown didn't deserve it.
Well,
but
that's public knowledge, and you're coming after me, then you're going to get that right back. I mean, that ain't overboard. To me, what he did was overboard, the personal thing. You'll never go overboard with TriStar hats. You need to go there and get as much as you can. For the latest in TriStar hats, go to the original. It's right down below, TriStarHatsCo.com, TriStarHatsCo.com. We'll give away weekly prizes, including that NCAA t-shirt, which is finally getting printed. My apologies to those that have ordered. They will be out this week. Also want to thank our friends at Quality Tire Pro. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, all automotive work, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. All work is covered by nationwide warranty. They're at Cherokee Blvd, or go to QualityTirePros.com, QualityTirePros.com. Again, just below. And we have breaking news in the message board that OJ didn't kill anyone.
I think that's a troll, obviously. But by the way, this is relevant because I want to, speaking of news, Dave, you tell me if this is relevant. Ole Miss within the last 24 hours has suffered 3 decommitments since this Lane Kiffin weekend in Twitter war with Antonio Brown. And one of them is 5-star wide receiver Jerome Miles, Antonio Brown's wide receiver. Then edge rusher Corey Amos, and another wide receiver, Dylan Alfred. So he's lost 2 receivers, including a 5-star.
Okay, so the question is this, are you asking me if this Twitter war is related to losing commitments? Yes. Oh,
yes,
no. No, it's not.
You don't think it is?
I don't think it is. And if
what if Antonio Brown is paying him to decommit?
Well, I mean, if a kid like that, I don't know that he has the money, but if a kid like that is going to base his opinion off a Twitter war, I don't know that I want him to be a part of my program. You want Apex Apparel Group to be a part of your business. Just call Tyler and get a great shirt like this. Look at that logo. It looks fantastic. Embroidered 865-919-3001. 865-919-3001. Call Tyler at Apex Apparel Group Design. In the end, who would you most want to kick it with for a weekend?
Which coach or which person between Lane Kiffin and Antonio Brown?
Antonio Brown or Lane Kiffin.
Antonio Brown's a horrible human, but I'd rather kick it with Antonio Brown. He's probably hilarious in one-on-one conversations. He probably says some of the funniest stuff that would just have me laughing. Lane Kiffin seems like he's really awkward in one-on-one scenarios. I mean,
but I think Lane would be fun if he wasn't in a group of like 10 or more people. I would like to one-on-one. I would like to sit down and just pick Lane's brain about football and just have it on a big screen. I can't think of anything that I would want to do with Antonio Brown other than see a movie. Right. Other than see a movie, so I don't have to talk to him.
You know who Lane Kiffin is, right? You know who he is. And here's a great analogy. Lane Kiffin is the 50 Cent. Sorry?
Rain Man?
No, he's the 50 Cent of college football. And here's what I mean by that. For those who aren't in the weeds of hip-hop fandom, when rappers diss other rappers, it's common, but if someone's constantly dissing other rappers, they start to look lame and like losers because it's like now you're just jealous of everybody. But we all give 50 Cent a pass for just dissing everybody in hip-hop. He just talks trash about everybody, and we're all like, it's 50 though. It's kind of funny when 50 does it. But if anybody else did it, we would criticize it. We're that way with Lane. It's like Lane acts like a child on Twitter, and we're all kind of like, Lane, hilarious. If any other coach did that, we'd be like, that's unbecoming of a head coach.
Well, we would. And you wouldn't want Josh Heupel to do that, I don't think. But I think he's more Rain Man. I think he looks at the toothpicks that have fallen on the ground, like he looks at a defense, and he says, I know exactly where to attack it. And 162 toothpicks. For those that have seen the Rain Man movie, he had a little bit of trouble interacting with people. I think Lane has some trouble with that. So obviously he's not that strong. But I think he looks at a defense and sees it in levels that we don't see, Caleb. I think Josh Heupel does too. So as far as hanging out with him, I mean, what would you and Antonio Brown do? Go around? I mean, you're a dad now. You're going to go pick up chicks?
No, I just make jokes with Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown probably is just makes a ton of jokes all the time. And I like childish humor. I love childish humor. And so me and Antonio Brown
like Pee Wee Herman. Pee Wee Herman might well be a show that I share with my kids.
I mean vulgar childish humor.
Oh, okay. Like Dumb and Dumber.
Family Guy. Think Family Guy.
Love Family Guy. All right, Hooker's Corner. Join. Get the latest news on Tennessee football, recruiting, more interaction with me and Caleb, more content, and an opportunity to win great prizes. Check this prize out. Pretty awesome. How about a John Henderson autographed helmet right here? Can you see it, Caleb, with me still talking? There it is. Oh, you don't see the autograph? There it is right there. There we go. If you're on our video platform, you can win that. We will give that away Friday, actually. So that's pretty awesome. All you have to do is join right there. And if you're a paid member, you will be eligible to win the grand prize, which, again, this month is that John Henderson helmet. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. We'll see you each and every weekday at 10 a.m. Hit the like and subscribe button on your way out if you don't mind. I would greatly appreciate it.